Hello students, welcome to FS Cloud. My name is Shashmita. We have an app by the name Careers Cloud which you can go and download through the Play Store. Once you have downloaded the application, you will easily be able to log in using your Gmail ID. And once you have logged in, you will be redirected to this page where you will be getting this URL. And there will be option for home, all courses, my courses and doubt section in this application. You will be getting multiple PDFs, multiple content on daily basis that will be enhancing your learning. Under Crack Current Affairs, you'll be able to see multiple options. First one is Current Affairs English. We upload the day-to-day basis news in the English format. And apart from English PDF, we also provide them in Hindi format. And this banking awareness, we upload a PDF every month. So this PDF will contain the banking news, banking and the finance news of that respective month. And Current Affairs Exam PDF will have two categories. One is that most important news of that particular month will be uploaded in this Current Affairs Exam PDF. And also Exam Perspective PDF will also be uploaded. And next is Special CA. This will contain Union Budget, Economic Survey, and also the most important events that had taken place globally as well as nationally. And next most important is topic wise. So the entire news of that particular month will be segregated into different topics. And in order to recollect whatever you've read, we also provide you with topic wise quizzes. Apart from that, we also provide state current affairs. Now, here if you see, we provide you with the day-to-day PDF, and this we provide you with the weekly PDF. So that particular week news will be compiled into a PDF and in question and answer format in English and will be uploaded here. And to enhance your learning, you can also, to enhance and strengthen your learning, you can also attend the quiz. Here we provide you with the entire news of that particular week. But here we take the top 60 most important news and we upload it in this PDF in question and answer format. Apart from weekly, we also provide you the monthly ones. This PDF will contain detailed view of that particular month news. And this will have a brief format of the same news. This will be in the form of a question and answer format, and this will have the top 100 question and answer of that particular month. We also provide you with the PIB news on a day-to-day basis, which you can go and read in these particular tabs. Apart from that, we also provide the Union Budget and Economic Survey. You can also attend you can read after reading the PDF. You can also go and attend the quiz. This is available in the Special CA category. We also provide state level current affairs. So this will be very helpful for students who are preparing for state level exams. For example, if you are preparing for Tamil Nadu state level exams, then you can click this tab and you will be able to see all the current affairs or news related to Tamil Nadu. Apart from that, we also provide PDF from the exam perspective. Suppose you are preparing for RBI Assistant Mains, then this tab will contain 5 to 6 months of current affairs, which has high probability of being asked in RBI Assistant Mains. Similarly, for SBI PO, RRB PO, Clerk Mains, all these are being given under this section. And also, we provide separate content-wise, topic-wise current affairs like national affairs, government schemes, international affairs, banking and finance, economy and businesses, MOUs, and committees and meetings. All these different types of news are segregated in these particular categories. Hello students, welcome to our new initiative. In this initiative, we will be uploading the weekly current affairs on banking and finance section. So this will be uploaded on every Monday. And so on the whole, per month, you will have totally 4 videos related to this topic. And apart from just providing you with the banking and finance news, we also provide you the conceptual explanation so that this will enhance and also strengthen your knowledge about these topics. Today, we will cover the May 1st week banking and finance news. Moving to the first news. RBI has laid certain framework for volunteer transition of small finance bank. Now, what is this small finance bank? They are a type of financial institutions whose purpose is to serve in the unserved or unbanked areas. So they mainly provide loans to the underserved areas. So they have certain conditions that has to be followed. That is, at least they have to allocate 75% of their net credit to priority sector. Generally, for the other banks, for the private sector, public sector banks, it is 40%. But in case of small finance bank, it is 75%. And at least 50% of their loan should be less than 25 lakhs. So these are the certain conditions that a small finance bank has to follow. And this was established on the basis of the recommendation given by the Usha Tharoor committee. Now, let us move to the framework. If a small finance bank want to convert itself into a universal bank, then it has to have a minimum net worth of 1000 crores at the previous quarter or the end of the previous quarter. So 1000 crores at the end of the previous quarter. This is first condition. Second is that it has to have a good track record for minimum of 5 years. Only then it can convert itself into a universal bank. Third is that the CRAR, that is capital adequacy ratio, should be minimum of 15%. Generally, for the other universal bank, that is scheduled commercial bank or the private banks and all, it is 9%. And it is 9% and are as stipulated by RBI. But for this small finance bank, it has to be 15%. Now, and the small finance bank that wishes to convert, it has to be listed on the stock exchange, and it has to have a net profit for the last 2 financial years. So many small finance banks have been showing losses also. So if you want to convert, then you have to have a net profit in the last 2 financial years. The last condition is that the gross NPA should be 3% and the net NPA should be 1%. That is, what is the difference between the gross and net NPA is the provision. Suppose the NPA is around 100 crores. Now, if you have made a provision of 30 crores, now what is this provision? That is, you take some amount from the profit and you allocate as the provision, because you are not expecting the loan that was given to be returned back. That is, the loan has turned NPA and you are not expecting it to come back. So for that purpose, you have to make certain provision, and this provision will be taken from the profit of the balance sheet. So they have made a provision of 30 crores and now it is 70 crores. This 70 crores is called as the net NPA and this 100 crores is called as the gross NPA. So the gross NPA should be 3% and the net NPA should be 1%. In case of promoters, it has stated that if a transition is required, then you are not allowed to add any new promoters, or change in the promoters list is not allowed in case of transition to universal bank. And also, no mandatory lock-in requirement is also not required. And the eligible small finance bank which have diverse loan portfolio will be preferred. So this is the framework given by the RBI for the small finance bank to convert itself into a universal bank. Moving to the next news. SEBI has allowed the alternate investment fund to pledge equity shares. Now, what is this alternate investment fund? It is similar to a mutual fund. In mutual fund, they pool in different people money and they invest in various stocks. Similarly, alternate investment fund also does the same, but here no normal like you or me cannot go and invest. It is done by sophisticated users who has wide financial knowledge. They go and invest in this alternate investment fund because it has a lot of risk also. So mostly companies, banks, they go and invest in this alternate investment fund. Now, what is SEBI has said that, before that we'll see the 3 categories. There are 3 categories of alternate investment fund. First category, they invest in startups or early stage ventures or social ventures, that is, mostly which involves the government, social and economically viable sectors. So in these kind of sectors, the AIF category 1 invest, and category 3, they involve extremely complex technologies and trading strategies. So they involve diverse or complex trading strategies. In these cases, the AIF uses these strategies to invest in listed and unlisted, both listed and unlisted derivatives they invest. And AIF2 are the one which do not fall in either of the 2 categories. This is called the AIF2. Now this SEBI has mentioned this for AIF1 and AIF2. Now what it has said that now this category 1 and category 2 AIF, they can create encumbrance on the investee company equities in the infrastructure to facilitate debt raising. Now, what is this encumbrance? Encumbrance means you can claim against a property by a party that is not the owner. See, suppose you have taken a loan from a bank, home loan. Now, you will be the ultimate owner of the house, but you must have pledged the mortgaged the house to the bank. So this encumbrance will be held by the bank. So the bank can create the encumbrance on the house, but you are the owner. So this is what encumbrance means. So category 1 and 2, they can create a claim on the shares and they can facilitate the debt raising. So they pledge the equity and to that they raise the debt. Now, previously this was not allowed because this might lead to potential investor losses. So in case, what if the investee company defaults, doesn't pay the debt? So previously this was not allowed, but now it has been allowed. And also it has stated that if you have raised by pledging your shares or the equity, then you have to mention it in the private placement memorandum. Now, it is also stated that if the category 1 and category 2 AF, they have raised the money by pledging the equity, then they have to invest the money. They have to make sure that the company invests the money only for the development or the operative purpose, and has to ensure that this money is not invested in any other company. So the raised money are utilized only for the purpose of the development, operation or management of the investee company, and not utilized otherwise, including to invest in another company. We have launched a new course called Static Banking Awareness course. Now this course will be helpful for students who are preparing for the banking exams and for the regulatory body exams. And also recently you would have seen Paytm Bank in news frequently. So when an aspirant reads this news, he would have ample number of questions like what is a payment bank, what are the norms for it, and which is the committee that has launched it. So this Static Banking Awareness course lays a foundation to the current banking and finance news. Now, you have to download our Careers Cloud to access this course. Once you have logged into our app, you can go and click this All Courses icon, and then you'll be redirected to this page. In this, you have to go and click the Static Banking Awareness course, and under the Details tab, you will be able to see a brief about this course. And under the Part tab, it will contain all the contents, all the topics of the contents that are currently available in this course. We are working on this continuously, and this will be completed within 2 months. Under the Free tab, you can go and access one content, that is the origin and development content, for free. You can go and read this content and have an idea about this course. After reading this content, do attend the quiz that is also available under the same tab. Now, our team has allocated ample amount of time and resources to curate this content. We have created this content from various books and from various verified websites. Our content is better than any book that is available in the market. This is because we update this content on a dynamic basis. For example, there are currently 39 DRTs that are available in the country now. In future, if one more DRT is created or added, then it would become 40. So we would update this content on a dynamic basis. But in case of books, you have to wait for the next publication for this updated content. Nowadays, a lot of practical questions have been asked in the banking exams. For example, how many public sector banks are available on the stock exchange? Which is the payment bank that is being listed on the stock exchange? So, we try to cover as many practical questions as possible in this course. Apart from this, we also provide you a question bank that will contain around 3000 questions and the previous year questions along with it. We also have a dedicated tab that will release the important RBI notification and the frequent news released by the RBI. RBI directs top charge to stop PPI and wallet issuance. Now, what are PPI? PPI are prepaid instruments. So in these instruments, you load the money before in hand. So this is a PPI instrument. So in this, you load the money beforehand, and then using this you purchase goods, services, and also you do remittance, like you send money to your friends or family, and sometimes in few PPIs you can also withdraw cash. So this is the purpose of PPI. Now, what has Reserve Bank of India has done? It has directed the Gurugram based fintech technology called Top Charge Technologies. It has instructed them to stop the issuance and the operation of PPI, and also to refund all the balances. So whatever is stored in the PPI, you have to refund all the balances back to the customers within 45 days. Now, how do they actually issue the PPI? This Top Charge and Technology, they issue their PPI through their website and app called Top Charge. Now, they have not received the required authorization from the RBI under the Payment and Settlement System Act 2007. Due to this reason, RBI has instructed them to stop the issuance and their operation. Now, there are two types of PPI. One is small PPI, other one is full KYC PPI. Now, what is this small PPI? Here, the entire KYC details of the customer need not be provided to the issuer. Now, who issues these PPI? The banks and the NBFC, non-banks. So, these banks and the non-banks, both of them issue PPI. So, in small PPI, like phone number or in your name, these details are enough. So, using this small PPI, you can do certain merchant locations, you can do the transactions. Not in all, but only in certain. and you cannot do any remittance. That is, you cannot transfer any fund to your friends or family, and also you cannot do any cash withdrawal. But in case of full KYC PPI, where you would provide all your KYC details like Aadhaar or PAN is provided to the issuer. After these details are provided and after the issuer verifies these details, it provides you the full KYC. So in full KYC, you can purchase any goods and services from any merchant, and also you can do fund transfer, that is remittances to your friends and family, and also you can withdraw cash. But the maximum outstanding amount should not exceed 2 lakhs rupees in case of a full KYC. Moving to the next news, RBI kept the FPI investment in government security at 6%. Now, there are two types of investment from the foreign. One is the FPI, and other is the FDI. In FDI, like if you see Tesla is planning to establish its manufacturing base in India, we've seen in the news recently. So here they establish a manufacturing base or they invest a lot in a manufacturing company. So this is for a long-term basis. They provide income opportunities and also job opportunities. But here FPI, they invest in financial asset like stocks, bonds. So these kind of assets they invest, and this is for short-term basis. So as soon as they earn money, they exit this position and they leave the country. So this is the purpose of an FPI. If you see any non-residents, any overseas residents, like if a resident of America wants to invest in India, they invest through FPI. So those residents invest in FPI, and this FPI on behalf of them, they invest in this government securities or bonds or stocks in India. So RBI has now announced that the investment in limit by the FPI in the government securities. So the government securities are issued by the RBI on behalf of the government. So it has said that the limit is unchanged at 6%. Previously also the limit was 6%, and now also they have kept at 6% for the financial year 25. Similarly, they have also set the limit for the state government securities. It's just not the central government that issues securities. Even state government also issues securities for their expense purposes. So, for state government securities and corporate bonds, they have set the limit at 2% and 15% respectively for the financial year 25. Now, RBI has notified that the aggregate limit that the credit default swap sold by the FPI, it will be only 5% of the outstanding stock of the corporate bonds. Now, so it has set limit for the government security at 6%, for the state government securities at 2%, corporate bond at 15%, and for credit default swap at 5%. Now, what is this credit default swap? Now, say this fund house, that is the lender, it has bought a corporate bond from the borrower. Say this is A, and it has bought the bonds from corporate B. So it has invested around 100 crores. And the interest, say they are paying, corporate is paying 14% per annum. So this will receive the interest either annually or semi-annually, whatever is on the agreed terms. Now, if this lender A, which has bought the corporate bonds, fears that in future what this corporate B fails, so in order to reduce this risk, they buy this credit default. So this credit default swap is being bought by a seller. This will also be a corporate. So here what they do is, it is that they provide you an insurance. In case this corporate person defaults, then we will give you the money that you had invested in that corporate. So in return, you have to pay me a regular premium. So because I am taking your risk. So just like insurance, there you pay the premium, and in case of any risk, they repay you the amount, like in case of health insurance or any term insurance. Similarly, in this case also, if the corporate fails to repay, then this CDS seller will repay the amount that was invested by the fund house. This is the purpose of the credit default swap, and RBI has set the CDS limit at 5%. Now, moving to the next news, RBI announces interest rate of 8% for the floating rate bonds. Now, there are two types of bond. One will be fixed, another is floating. Now, what is this fixed and floating? This is nothing but the interest that they provide. So, if you see, if in fixed, if it says that 7%, then for the entire tenure of that bond period, 7% of the amount will be provided to the bond buyers. And it is floating, then it will change periodically. Sometimes it will change every month, sometimes half yearly, sometimes quarterly, depending upon the conditions. terms and conditions already mentioned in that bond. So in this case, Reserve Bank has announced an 8% rate on the floating rate saving bond 2034. So this bond will mature in 2034. And for that, it has now set the interest rate at 8%. So this interest rate will be reset every 6 months. And on what basis? It will be reset on the basis of the current market condition. So whatever is the market condition then, depending upon that, this interest rate will be reset. So every 6 months, this floating rate savings bond will be reset. Now it is currently at 8%. The minimum investment amount is 10,000 rupees and the maximum investment, there is no limit on this maximum investment. Now, RBI has cancelled the certificate of registration for the Ace Money India Limited. So, Ace Money India Limited is an NBFC. And RBI has cancelled the registration of this. Why? It is because of various irregular lending practices like charging of excess interest. So, whatever interest is stated in the agreement, more than that it has charged. So, one reason is charging of excess interest. Another is violation of RBI guidance on managing risk. And the third one is it has violated the code of conduct in its digital lending operation. So these three reasons, due to these three reasons, RBI has cancelled its registration. Now, Neobank FI secures NBFC license from RBI. So, FI is the Neobank platform of the EPFI Technology Private Limited. This is Bangalore-based NBFC. It has got NBFC license from the Reserve Bank of India. Now this NBFC, with this license, it can now lend money from its own asset books. So previously, if you see, they acted as an intermediary between the borrowers and the NBFC. That is, they would not lend their money. They will only connect the borrowers and the NBFC. This was what they were doing before receiving this license. Now, since they have got the license, now they can offer loans from its own books and also eliminate the need of external dependencies such as banks and NBFCs. Worldline e-Payment India received the RBI approval to operate as payment aggregator. So this Worldline e-Payment, it has received certificate of registration to operate as a payment aggregator. Now, what is this payment aggregator? Suppose a customer goes to Amazon and orders some dress or some product. Now it makes its payment. There will be a various payment option, like you can make it to net banking or through PPI wallet, like you have Amazon wallet, or you can do UPI or through card. So these many options will appear on the customer, to the customer. Now merchants may not have all this receiving option. So in that case, what will it do is merchant will have an agreement with the payment aggregator. This payment aggregator will onboard such merchants. It will tell the merchants that I will collect the money from the customer and I will give you the payment to you. So you don't have to worry about this payment related work. You can carry on with your business. So the payment aggregator, it collects the money from the customer. It stores in its escrow account and then it sends to the merchant account after a certain settlement date. This settlement date will be decided by the merchant and the payment aggregator. So this is the purpose of the payment aggregator. And now this Worldline e-Payment has received approval from the RBI. The next news is ADB has pledged around 23 billion in 2023 to help the Asia and Pacific progress on sustainable development. So recently, the annual report 2023 of the ADB has been released. In that, it has mentioned the steps taken by the ADB which has helped its developing member countries to address certain challenges such as climate crisis and food security and also debt burden. And for that purpose, ADB has raised around 23.6 billion through loans, grants and equity investments to help the Asia and Pacific to fulfill the sustainable development. You know that the sustainable development goals are 17 in number and they have to be achieved by 2030. So entire world is putting their efforts to fulfill this sustainable development goals. And the head of the ADB is Masatsugu Asakawa and the headquarters is in Manila. Next news is NIPL and Bank of Namibia inks the pact to develop UPI-like payment system. NIPL is NPCI International Payment Limited. It is an arm of NPCI, international arm of NPCI. It has signed a pact with Bank of Namibia to establish UPI like instant payment system. We have done this with Singapore, with Nepal and all. So similarly, now we are doing with Namibia. This will enhance the digital financial services and also P2P, that is person to person, and P2M, that is person to merchant payment transactions in Namibia. So the CEO of NIPL is Ritesh Shukla and it is headquartered in Mumbai. NABARD has partnered with Reserve Bank Innovation Hub to fast-track digital agri lending. NABARD, it has partnered with RBIH. RBIH is the latest subsidiary of the, or latest or the youngest subsidiary of the RBI. RBI has totally 5 subsidiaries and RBIH is the latest or the youngest subsidiary. So they have partnered to develop a system which will speed up the process of agriculture loans. So with this partnership, the turnaround time of the loans will reduce from 3 to 4 weeks to 5 minutes for 12 crore farmers. So now the farmers can get their loan very quickly. This will also expand the digital lending platform to cover about 5 crore Kisan credit card loans in both cooperative banks and also in RRBs. The next news is related to SEBI. SEBI has given approval to CRISIL ESG Rating and Analytics Limited. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of CRISIL's rating, that is CRL. So what approval has it given? It has given a category 1 provider of the ESG rating, that is environmental social governance. Now what is this environmental social governance and what is this rating? Suppose a corporate company wants to issue bonds. So you can raise the money from the market in 2 types. One is equity, another one is bonds. So if he wants to issue bonds to the mass or to the people, then he has to rate his company first. So the rating will be provided by these rating agencies. So with this rating, the bond will be attached to a rating, say AA or B plus or B minus. So these kind of ratings will be provided and this will be attached to the bond. So depending upon the rating, the interest rate will also be provided by the corporate and the people can use this method or can see the rating and then if they wish to buy, they can buy the bonds. Similarly, these ratings are generally provided looking at the balance sheet, how like what is the profit, what is their total sales, total turnover, all these data. Using these data, this rating is declared. But in this environment social governance, the environment factors, like have they affected any environment while creating this factory, have they polluted the water, or have they increased the greenery, like if have they contributed to the society, like constructing roads for the common people or schools, any CSR activities. So all these factors, all these data are included in arriving this environment social governance rating. So to provide this rating, a rating agency is there and CRISIL is that rating agency. SEBI has provided this category provided to this CRISIL ESG Rating and Analytics Limited. Now, ECG will help the investors to measure and monitor the ECG risk and enable them to identify the investment opportunities. So depending upon the ECG rating, the investors can have an idea like, is this company only concerned about the profit or also about the entire environment as a whole? So because if it is concerned about the entire environment, then it is a long-term sustainability. So nowadays the investors are concerned about the long-term sustainability and not just the short-term, that is the profit. So these ratings provide them to analyze that. This, and also there's one condition, the principal shareholder of an ECG rating is mandated to have an ownership of 26% and the agency of minimum 5 years subsequent to receiving regulatory approval. So 26% ownership and minimum of 5 years. Next, even the foreign entities can participate in providing these ECG rating, but for that they require prior SEBI certification to provide this ESG ratings. The MD is Gurupreet Chatwal and it is headquartered in Mumbai. SBI card has launched certain travel credit cards with 3 variants. So those are SBI card Miles Elite, SBI card Miles Prime and SBI card Miles. So these are the offers that they are providing, that they provide travel credits for every 200, and here they provide 4 travel credits, and here it is 2. Similarly, other than travel, for even other spending also they provide travel credits, that is 2 here, and here also 2, and but over here they provide only 1 travel credit for every 200 rupees that they have spent. Now, SBI Cards and Payment Service Limited, it is a joint venture between the State Bank of India and the GE Capital. The MD and CEO is Abhijit Chakravarti. It was established in 1998 and Gurugram, Haryana is its headquarters. Next news is about the MD and CEO appointment. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs has approved the appointment of Hitesh Kumar Sethia. He will be the MD and CEO of Jio Financial Services Limited for a period of 3 years. This Jio Financial Services Limited is nothing but a non-deposit taking NBFC registered with RBI. There are 2 types of NBFC. One is deposit taking and another one is non-deposit taking. So this comes under the non-deposit taking category. Former RBI Governor D. Subbarao has launched a new book titled Just a Mercenary, Notes from My Life and Career. Now, who has published this book? Penguin Random House has published this book and narrates about the Subbarao career. So, the entire content is about the previous governor's career. And he has served as the governor of the RBI for 5 years during this duration, that is 2008 to 2013. He has also served as secretary to the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council during 2005 to 2007. The next news is related to growth projections of India. So the Delhi-based National Council of Applied Economic Research, that is NCAER, in its monthly economic review, it has stated that India will grow at more than 7% per annum in financial year 25. It has factored into various activities or various indices to derive or to conclude this projection. So one among them are Purchasing Manager Index for manufacturing reaches 16-year high at 59.1. Now, what is this Purchasing Manager Index? It is a measure of the prevailing direction of the economic trend in manufacturing. So how is the manufacturing going, whether it's increasing every month or not? So it provides an economic trend. So similarly, for services also there is a PMI and it has increased to 61.2. Along with it, the UPI, that is Unified Payment Interface, it has recorded the highest ever volume since its inception in 2016, that is 13.4 billion transaction in March 2024. And now the GST collection hits 1.8 lakh crore in March 2024, which is the second highest. The first highest was in April the previous year. It was around the similar 1.8 some lakh crore, and this is the second highest. So all these factors have been included to conclude the projection at more than 7%. The various other projections are RBI has projected 7% per annum for financial 25, ADB at 7%, and IMF has projected 6.8%. This is related to SEBI news. Now, there is a Grow Mutual Fund, which is an asset management company. It has received approval from the SEBI to launch India's inaugural Nifty Non-Cyclic Consumer Index. Now, this will invest in stocks of the Nifty Non-Cyclic Consumer Index. This Nifty Non-Cyclic Consumer Index, it tracks the performance of the stocks that represent the non-cyclical consumer theme. Now, what is this non-cyclical consumer theme? They are the industries which are insulated from the economic cycle. So irrespective of the economic cycle, whether it is down or whether it is up, these industries will keep running because the goods that these industries produce, they are used on an everyday or a day-to-day manner by the people. Like if you see in the COVID time, when all other industries were affected, but this fast-moving goods industry were not affected. People were stocking on this packaged goods like biscuits, chips, and all the packaged juices and all. So these kind of industries were not affected even during COVID. So non-cyclic consumer are those kind of industries which are insulated or protected from the economic cycles. So like consumer goods, consumer services. So this in these stocks, that is top 30 stocks, this Nifty Non-Cyclic Consumer Index represents the top 30 stocks, and in this index, this Grow Mutual Fund AMC new one will invest. Now, the minimum lump sum is rupees 500 and the SIP is rupees 100. Now, Hitachi has launched India's first upgradable ATM. Now, there are two types. One is ATM and another one is CDM. ATM, you can only deposit and withdraw money. You can only withdraw money. But in CDM, you can deposit as well as withdraw money. So, this new thing, what it does is that it can be converted into a cash recycling machine. So existing, you have to have two separate machines, one for ATM, one for CDM. But this machine, it can be used as an ATM, and when the bank needs for recycling the money, it can be converted into a cash recycling machine, which means it can also deposit, it can also take the deposits from the customers. So it can be converted into a cash recycling machine as and when a bank needs it, eliminating the need for a separate CRM. These upgraded machines, you know that now you can deposit using card, but nowadays a new feature has also been enabling in a timely manner. So that is UPI enabled. So these machines feature UPI enabled. So using your UPI ID or the QR code scan, you can deposit or withdraw cash from this CRM. Next news is Yes Bank and ANQ Finance partner to launch two co-branded credit cards. So Yes Bank has partnered with a Bengaluru or Karnataka-based financial service provider called ANQ Finance to launch two co-branded credit cards. One is Pi credit card and one is PHI credit card. So this Pi credit card is digital only card and this Pi is physical card. Now, the MD and CEO of Yes Bank is Prashant Kumar. The next news is RBI has updated the guidance note on the operation risk management to extend it to NBFC. Now, there are various types of risk involved in banking sector. One is credit risk. In this credit risk, what if the borrowers do not pay back the loan? So that is the credit risk. Another is the market risk. You know that apart from giving the loan to the customers, the banks also invest in government securities and equities. So what they default. So this, what it defaults. So this is called as market risk. The another one is called the operation risk. Operation risk involves human errors. Also, if there is any cyber threat. So all this is called as operational risk. So regarding this, guidance has been provided by the RBI. The guidance has been updated by the RBI. Now, this guidance is prepared based on the Basel Committee on the Banking Supervision. And which all banks are this applicable? Is this applicable to? So it is applicable to all commercial banks, all primary urban cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, central cooperative banks, and all NBFCs. And also it is applicable to all India financial institutions like Exim Bank, NABARD, NHB, SIDBI, and NABFID, that is National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. Now, this guidance is based on three pillars. One is prepare and protect, that is prevention is better than cure. So before any error, any human error or any cyber threat occurs, you have to prepare yourself. Next is build resilience. If any shock has happened, if the bank or the financial system has absorbed the shock, then it has to be able to deliver the critical critical elements even after absorbing the shock. Next is learn and adapt. So after the event, after this risk or the threat has occurred, then what has the banking system learned, and it has to adapt to the new changes. So this is the third pillar. So the first pillar, prepare and protect. For that you have to have a good governance and risk culture, and the board of directors should also take the responsibilities of framing them. Apart from that, you have to assess, identify and assess the risk. Identify the risk and assess how much it is more critical. Like this risk will cause 100% damage. This risk will cause 50% damage. So you have to assess the risk and also monitor and report it on a regular basis. These things come under the prepare and protect. Now the second pillar, you have to undergo business continuity planning and testing. You have to map, you know that nowadays all the banks and the NBFC, they are highly interconnected and interdependent. So you have to map this interconnectedness and interdependentness, and the banks are also very strongly dependent on the third party. See, if you see, the technology is now provided by the third party. So they are strongly dependent on the third party. So before onboarding any third party to the bank, they have to assess the risk that can arise by onboarding the third party. So third party dependency management and also ICT, that is including cyber security, all this comes under the build resilience. And under learn and adapt, you have to disclose and report everything. There should be high transparency in the documents that you report, in the financial statements that you report, and also lessons learned, and also adapting. After learning the lessons, you have to adapt the changes in it. And there should be continuous improvement, that is through feedback. You have to take feedback from the customers, from the stakeholders, so that you improve on a continuous basis. Now, so as part of the operational risk management framework, there are 3 lines of defense. Now, let us see one by one. The first line of defense. So if you see the business unit, so they have to identify the risk that is inherent in each of the business unit. The business unit, if you see the finance unit, the human resource unit, so these each and one are called as the business unit. So what are the risk inherent, the operational risk inherent in these units that we have to identify and assess? Next is to control, to mitigate this inherent risk. That is the second step. The third step is that you have to identify if there is any lack of resources or tools, because even due to lack of resources, these risks may occur. So you have to identify the adequate, if there is any lack of adequate resources and tools. The fourth one is monitoring and reporting the business unit. You have to regularly monitor and report the business unit's risk profile. The second line of defense. This is the second line, organization operational risk management function. This is the second line of defense. Here you have to challenge the relevance, consistency of the implementation of the operational risk management tools. So you have to implement the risk management tools on a consistent manner. Next is that you have to measure the policies, standard and the guidelines of the operational risk management. The next one is the same as the reviewing and contributing to the operational risk profile. The last one is that you have to provide adequate training and risk awareness. This is required to all the employees and everyone, even to the employees and even to the staff. You have to provide the risk training and risk awareness. This is the second line of defense. Last line of defense involves the audit function. So you have to provide the audit function ensures that there is no any biased report should not be there. So if there is risk involved, then it has to be reported to the board without any biasment. So it ensures an independent assurance to the board regarding the appropriateness of the RE's operational risk management framework. So whether the framework is appropriate or not, whether it's been updated or not, this is found by the audit. So this audit should be an unbiased one and they should report it to the board. Now, before entering into any arrangement, the third parties or the external entities, all REs must perform a risk assessment. So before onboarding the third parties, the regulated entities must perform a thorough risk assessment of the third party. Now, so if you see that, we saw that it is applicable to the commercial banks, to the cooperative banks, but these following banks, that is local area banks, small finance bank and payment bank, they are not required to maintain a separate regulatory capital for this operational risk. Moving to the next news, the credit card spends rise by 27%. This news involves a lot of data. So you just have an idea of the data and the important banks involved in it. Maybe you can use this in the essay part. So credit card spending has increased from 14 trillion in financial year 23 to 18.26 trillion in financial year 24. That is an increase of 27%, which is very huge. In HDFC, if you see, there are around 40,280 crore using HDFC credit card. This much amount has been spent in February 2024 and March it has spent around 43,471 crores. In case of Axis Bank, it is 18,941. In case of SBI, it is 24,949. And in case of ICICI, it is 30,733 crores. Now, the share of the credit card spend of these 4 banks. So, these 4 banks are dominating in case of credit card spending. Or also in credit card issuance, the number of credit card as well as the value, the amount of credit card spending, these 4 banks are dominating. So it is around 71.98%, which is amounting to 1.18 lakh crore. Now, the top 4 issuers had a total of 7.06 crores cards in force as of March 2024, whereas in previous year it was just 6.09 crores. So HDFC, it has issued around 20.59 million credit cards, SBI, it has issued 18.89, and ICICI 16.95 million, and Axis Bank, it has issued around 14.21 million credit cards. Thank you for watching the session. I hope you had enjoyed it. We're also available in Telegram under the name AffairsCloud_official. We also have an Instagram handle. Apart from this, you can contact us directly on 9677333862 regarding any courses that we offer or regarding any payment issues. You can contact on directly on this number. Thank you.